When I was a baby, I couldn't even stand yet. I was less than a year old. And I remember I was at my grandma's house and I was holding on to the side of her record player, which was a large piece of furniture. And I was swinging my leg to the music, and my grandma looks over at me and she says, "Look at that baby swinging her leg right in time with the music." And I remember my very first memory of music was out at my grandma's house, and I was probably 4 years old. I mean, I was little, and maybe even 5. And we were told to go to bed, and my grandma and my mom and some of their friends were over, and they were having a party downstairs. And my grandma, she started playing the piano, and they were just hooping and hollering and laughing, and she was singing, and the way that she played and the way that she was singing, I had never heard anything like this before. And I got out of bed and I was holding onto the banister, and I had my little face shoved between the banister on the top of the steps on the landing. I was sitting there with my sister, and just my eyes were big, and I remember having that first feeling of goosebumps, which, you know, I get often now when I hear a really good song that brings me joy or speaks to my soul. I just, you know, it makes all the hairs stand up on your body, and that's what I was experiencing for the first time as a child. And I just couldn't believe that these sounds were coming out of my grandma, because I had never seen this side of her. This was, you know, after hours. And so I remember after that, I would always beg my grandma, I said, "Please, Grandma, play the piano, play the piano." And she played like honky-tonk kind of country, Jerry Lee Lewis in a way style. She would slide and just her legs would get to swinging, and it was just an incredible sight. And of course, you know, as I got older and she got older, she wasn't really able to play that way. But I do have a recording of her, and I very much see myself in my grandma, just you know, even the way we're built, and watching her legs go up and down under the piano reminded me of my legs stomping on the foot drum. And just really, she was the seed for me in music. And as I got older, my brother, he was in a heavy metal band, and I started to get intrigued with that. I was really into classic rock, and, you know, Led Zeppelin and Buffalo Springfield and Janis Joplin, the Allman Brothers. There was a classic rock radio station in the Florida Keys where I spent some of my time growing up, and so I was very influenced by that, and I started a band with 3 guys, two long hairs, 1 mohawk. Fred, Christian, and Kyle. Yeah. And we're all sitting around a table at McDonald's having our lunch like you do when you're a kid. And we're in the 11th grade, and Christian, one of the long-haired guys. Actually, I think he had a mullet. Or maybe that his dad was the music teacher. He totally had a mullet, his dad. But he's like, you guys, I got it. I got a name for our band. And we're like, what? What is it? He's like, serotonin. And he's like, it's the feel-good hormone in your body. And he's like, like when you hear a good song and you feel good. We're like, sweet, nice. He's like, yeah, but we should spell it wrong. We're like, yeah, that'll be so cool. You'll spell it with an A instead of an O. And so serotonin was born. And we were a classic rock cover band. And I remember before we even started the band, I got my very first guitar, and it was a blue Washburn acoustic guitar. I got it with my brother, Josh, who was in the metal band. And, like the very next day I was like, I'm going to start a band. And my mom was like, you don't even know how to play the guitar yet. Like, what do you, and I'm like, doesn't matter. Like, I'm going to start a band. And, so then Serotonin happened around the 11th grade of high school. And I mostly sang in the band. I tried to play some guitar, and I remember the guys in my band would tease me and unplug my guitar, and I got real pissy at them, and, we were kids. But I mostly sang, and I was very influenced by Janis Joplin, and her style of singing, and that probably was like the first things that came out. And then, as time went on, I got very obsessed with Bob Dylan and Neil Young and more folk stuff, and started to play some harmonica and acoustic guitar, so, music was kind of one of those things that had always been there, forever, just even, at birth, and just, I think rhythm was something that was in my blood before I was even, could walk. And when in high school, and I guess I would have been a senior by now, my brother tragically passed away, who was in the metal band. And I remember just feeling like, so I felt so much a part of my brother, and inspired by him, and when he died, I think I just felt like I have to continue down this musical path, not only for myself, but for my brother. And I remember at his funeral standing over his body and saying, I'm going to play music until my fingers bleed, until my fingers fall off, or something like that. I don't remember, but it just felt, I almost felt like I at that moment became a warrior for music, for the both of us. And so time went on, and I went back down to the Keys from Missouri, from my country home in Missouri, and I went to a community college down there, and played with some of the locals at the open mic night once a week, and we never really got a name or did shows outside of open mic night, but we were there every week, every Wednesday, and we played, and it was so much fun. And I eventually around this time got a foot drum, and which was basically a drum kit that you play with your feet. This was probably in 2006. And this design had just become a thing. Like this was one of the first foot drums that he had ever made. And so I was kind of like his guinea pig product tester. And, fast forward over a decade later, and I became this Molly Jean One Woe Man band, name. I moved from the Keys, and I started touring all over the United States, and then I found myself in Europe and touring, a lot of countries over there, and it was just this, it was a beautiful life, but at the same time, it was an abrasive life. It was a war. It was a fight, and it was this armor that I wore, this proof that I had to do this, not only for me, but for my brother. And I didn't really realize, that until I started talking about it, but maybe I was pushing so much because I felt I had to. I don't know. But yeah. It had beautiful moments, though. I got to see so many different cultures and their styles of music, and like when I went to Spain, there's just this kind of garage rock and roll dance party fiesta style, but something that they don't play it on the radio. I mean, it's total rock and roll, and unique to, fast tempo, but very, very precise and just incredible. I played with this band called Macho that was just incredible, and I got to meet a lot of different musicians from around the world that I just really admire, and I learned a lot from them as far as like running your own business and and existing in the world as a touring musician, and what that really means and what that looks like. But I did it all as an independent artist, and not only did I play drums with my feet and guitar and harmonica, and I sang, but I booked my own tours. I did my web design. I drove. I carried my stuff. I did, sold my merchandise. I fought and I fought and I fought and I fought. And ultimately, I wasn't really happy towards the end of my touring music career, and I had really hurt my knees from stomping on a foot drum in cowboy boots for over a decade. Like that wasn't a good idea. And I was in I started to lose my mind. Because sleep deprivation is one of the number one causes of Alzheimer's. And at the end of 2019, I did my last show with one of my friends, Amy Farron. We started a duo my last year of touring as a musician, and Molly Jean and the Gasoline. And, I had to, because like I say, my knees had given out on me. And, but yeah, towards the end, you could say, Molly, what'd you do yesterday? And I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember anything. And it really scared me. And, because it's one thing to be tired, and it's one thing to physically hurt, but when you start to lose your mind, it's like, I didn't know telling my story was going to be so hard. But so I decided to let it all go, and the touring life, and through my touring career, I got my first yoga teacher training certificate in 2016, and I kind of saw the light of, what it actually feels like to feel good in your body and start the healing process. But I was too scared at that time to let go of music, because my ego was very involved, and I had, put so much, all of my money into it, and time and energy, and I couldn't let it go. And so I went back and I toured more, and I started a band, and I got a roadie, and I tried so hard to make it better, but I knew it had to stop, because I was losing everything. And so in February of 2020, I decided to take a 300-hour yoga teacher training to add on to my hours. And it really it saved my life. Not just the decision, but to quit, but the act of self-care, of caring enough about me. I started to heal my body. I started to heal my knees. I started to heal my mind on a very deep level. And I started to rewire my brain for gratitude and in the midst of so much pain and hardship, that continues, even now we're in this pandemic time, and everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people are dying, and I can't, be around people. I have rewired my brain for gratitude, and I feel a lightness that I have never felt before, and a peace that I have never felt before, and I see heaven all around me, and I feel God within me, and I see God within everyone. And I don't think that I could have gotten here without having all these things that were difficult happen to me, because nothing happens to you, everything happens for you. And when you can see that, you can really grow and learn from your quote-unquote misfortunes. You can learn from your traumas. You can learn from, identify what the voice of your ego, and realize how destructive that can be if you hold too tightly to your ego and the separation of yourself, of what you think you are, because you're really not what you think you are. You're not Molly Jean one woman band. You're not a musician. You're not whatever you title yourself. You're just a soul in a body that is temporary. So now, most of my, all of my time now is spent at home in quarantine, and this life of quarantine feels to me like heaven, because I have traveled for most of my life, and I have always wanted to go home. And so I really just appreciate this time here. And I'm now working with Full Circle Yoga School, where I took my teacher training, and we are building a online yoga school, and on making the online platform. The Yoga Alliance is now approving yoga teacher trainings online during this pandemic. And I think it's quite beautiful, even though I have been physically distancing myself from people. Socially, I feel more connected to people than I ever have before. And the people that really speak to my soul, like I see their soul and they see my soul, that kind of friendship connection, those are rising up and becoming stronger than ever before. I've also been experiencing a lot more psychic activity. I don't really know why that's happening. I'm having psychic dreams and visions. I saw the pandemic happen before it happened, and so in a way, I think I feel a bit more mentally prepared, and I have more acceptance, I think, than a lot of people do around that. but it's just an interesting time, and I've really gone through so many changes, and I feel like a completely different person now. Like in every way, in the way that I feel inside my body physically, in my mind, and how I hold space in my mind, and the way that I talk to myself, my quality of thoughts, everything has shifted to a more loving space. And it's just so much more productive for your autonomic nervous system, and the functioning of your body, and to operate in this way. And I was for a long time in my music career operating from the voice of the ego, and the voice of comparing myself to other people, and trying, just pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing to ultimate burnout, and thinking that was a thing to be applauded for. The person that works overtime gets time and a half kind of thing, even though I didn't get that. But just like this idea that the more hours you put in, and the harder you work, the more quote unquote successful you are, which is total bullshit. I've learned now, and it's okay to rest. It's okay to take time off. It's okay to have time and do absolutely nothing and lay down and meditate. That's okay. And it's also necessary for the optimum function of your body and your mind and your spirit. And that was something that I learned the hard way. And in a way, maybe that's the only way we can learn, or a really good way to learn, is to say, oh, okay, wow, I don't want to do that again. That was intense. Or oh wow, that worked out really well. I think I'll keep that, keep doing that, whatever the case may be. But yeah, so there's just been a tremendous amount of growth and acceptance with myself through the transition of touring musician to yoga teacher. And I feel really blessed, and I feel so happy that I let myself do what I want to do. And that sounds really well, duh, why wouldn't you do that? But I the voice of my ego was so loud that I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't hear what I wanted to do. I knew. I would always say, oh, I'd talk about yoga, or I'd think about yoga, or But what I really should have been doing was doing yoga. But that yoga was always in the back of my mind of, oh, I want to go back to that space I was in when I was in my teacher training, and that way I felt, and the truth is, I can always have that feeling of calm and peace and acceptance and gratitude at any time of the day, because I've trained myself to get there, and I've showed myself techniques through breath work, through meditation, through movement, through knowing where certain emotions are stored in the body, and being able to open those places up has just been so transformative. And really just, it's part of being human, and it's the part of being human that we've lost. We sit in chairs all day, or maybe we work in a cubicle and we don't see sunlight or our families. Of course, that's all changed with this pandemic, but that is the silver lining of this, one of them. But I've just learned how to be human again, and what it means to be human, and what it means to accept your pain, and accept yourself. Like, just know that you are enough. It's been a wild ride, and I'm just getting started.